For as long as they knew the mountain was there, not a single one of the thousands of villagers living at its base has ever had reason to ascend St. Vrain Mountain in the dead of winter. To do so would be reckless, deadly, categorically self-destructive, and beneficial to absolutely no one. There's never been reason for this idea to exist. Until now. This is a story about a race against time. Well, not just one race against time, it's actually about a few races against time all happening at the same time. A lot of which has to do with hiding one of the biggest cover-ups in human history. Which we'll get to. The important thing is that it all hinges on one very cute, very specific animal with one very cute and very specific name. And that name is none other than the... Hey! Spoil the whole goddamn thing, why don't you? Frickin' suits and their algorithms, man. I'm down here gluing my eyelids together and they're giving the frickin' ending away before we even start. Today we must talk about a single animal that is finding itself the subject of an investigation of tremendous urgency and significant value to the human race. Well, I suppose it's found itself there, but it doesn't really have a goddamn clue what's going on. Anyway, let's get inside and hash this out. Did you get the 8 clicks?
Yes, I
Blustering wins. The third time. What's the next one? No need to get upset. Just write the damn thing down.
Noted. Thank you.
Well, if you would act the least bit confident, then maybe this wouldn't be the expedition forecast, if you will. Can you see that I'm busy? There's a life on the line, dickhead. So you might as well. Morning, chaps. Welcome back. Jesus, man, that wind's freezing out there. Oh, it's not too bad down here, but I think up high it's going to be nothing short of biblical. I told you, hurricane. So I've heard. Go inside and get warm. Don't mind if I do. Now, the animal in question is a very small but very important creature. Now, it is related to the common rabbit, but it is measurably cuter. It lives exclusively at high altitudes. And, were it to be launched into the air, it shares the projectile motion characteristics of a baked potato. It is also oblivious as to its role in a global-scale drama that has been unfolding for the last 250 years. See, once upon a time, a great discovery was discovered, which stood to make a small group of people very extremely filthy rich. But they realized the cost of getting this fortune would not just be high, it would actually probably fuck over just about everyone else on planet Earth. So they went for it. They hired some dangerous henchmen to do the dirty work, and they crafted one of the most effective and destructive lies of all time. Fortunately, the truth is out there. The only problem is that this particular truth can't speak a lick of human language. It lives in a godforsaken wasteland, and it's disappearing from the face of the earth. So we have to move relatively quickly. Well, on that note, I think I'll spare you any further description of the damn thing. Get on with it. This is the pika. The pika has been a primary concern for us here at the Society for the Characterization of High Latitudes, Alpine Regions, and Mountains for decades. And finally, it seems we have our chance to, to get to the damn thing. Now, the Society is home to a long line of getting to the damn thing. The Society is home to a long line of explorers. From the 1948 Kuznetsov North Pole expedition to the 1921 Mulford biological exploration of the Amazon rainforest and the Andes Mountains, our team's work spans the globe and seeks to understand its many wonders. Schlarm has charted new paths, summited fearsome peaks, and cataloged a new species on every continent. These are insects. Naturally, these expeditions are not without their struggles. Many a close call has resulted in the loss of valuable equipment, the loss of hard-earned scientific data, and the loss, of course, of life. And toes. Frostbite is terrible. If only our track record was as good as the hot chocolate. Now, unfortunate as it is the loss of such first-rate captains as Mallory, Fisher, Boardman, and so on, that has put us at Schlarm in a tough spot regarding our ongoing investigation into the pika. Since everybody good died, we're going to have to scrape the bottom of the barrel if we want to get this thing done. Frickin' hate this guy. It's not always easy, you know, working with those self-righteous academic pricks. Science, of course, is the backbone of Schlarm's mission. Not getting bossed around by those little science guys with a little beep-boop computer. It is with science that we once eliminated measles from this country, before letting it come back for some reason that's way the hell beyond me. Before the money, before the cash, no shot. With science, that we rediscovered the connections between all living things. Data analysis, statistics, what about the probability? And with science, that we aspire to understand the grand total aggregate effect of all human activity on our home planet. With science, and with the pika. They've hardly spent any time in the field, those little nerds. Hardly spent any time on expedition. Pika live in the high alpine and have decided, for some godforsaken reason, not to migrate away nor hibernate during what is a long and very intense winter. It is unlike bears or marmots, which drop their heart rate, slow their breathing, and reduce their metabolism for months in an effort to stave off another bleak winter of the soul. And to conserve energy. Because of how difficult the alternative is to pull off, that is, maintaining activity all winter long and pretending that existence isn't pain, pika are a sensitive bunch. They react to every little change in their surroundings because they already live on the edge of what should be possible. This is of particular interest for two reasons. First, pika the world over are going the way of the Christmas Island pipistrelle, that of the red-bellied gracile possum, that of the lesser bilby. They're dying, drying up, going extinct. And second, the reason that pika are going dead from both the neck up and the neck down is because their homes tell us something very important, but very quiet. And so I said, well, you can take your cute little wabbits and shove them where the sun don't shine. You and me, those days are over. But then they upped the offer. The Pike mission is simple. The route begins here at base camp, 9,000 feet. After entering thick groves of aspens and evergreens, the trail winds upward for 4 miles and 2,400 feet through subalpine forest. Going higher, the trees thin out into Krummholz, the German word for twisted wood, which describes stunted, deformed trees that are battered by the fierce year-round winds. Gaining altitude beyond the Krummholz, one reaches tree line, past which no tree dareth grow, because the winds are so windy. And after tree line, the most strenuous portion of the ascent begins, the St. Vrain summit path. Beyond this point, the mission's route did not come back below tree line until the return voyage, which is pretty dangerous, if you ask me. I would never. And from the summit, the actual, most strenuous portion of the trip will begin. Approximately 1.8 miles of cross-country bushwhacking through loose rocks and exposed cliffs to reach the most vital of objectives, the research site. Unlike we at Schlarm, who contracted him for the job, Captain Quint's motivations for taking on this mission had about as much to do with benefiting his fellow man as selling cigarettes to 6-year-olds. He had his own twisted motivations for being here, which we took full advantage of. It's a win-win. See, the captain was hoping for a miracle. This was a Hail Mary. This was a last-ditch effort to salvage a career well past its prime, if it ever had one, and lately was kept afloat by bad publicity more than anything else. He was, for lack of a better term, washed the heck up. His work, quote-unquote nature documentaries, consisted of increasingly desperate self-glorification projects. We're hot on the trail of a black-footed ferret. We're on the trail of the endangered stickleback porcupine, the last of its kind, 1-year-old baby elephant with leprosy. We're gonna find him no matter what it takes. In which the real threat to the species that were being quote-unquote saved, see if we can go save Bambi, was not actually the steamroller of progress coming to destroy their homes and smash their habitat into oblivion. There's only so many endangered species left, and viewership's probably gonna drop off. Again. Instead, the real danger was of being co-stars in such god-awful pieces of cinema that made audiences resent the fact that these animals even existed in the first place. As one critic put it, the trailer for his upcoming dolphin film feels like a threat. Another called Captain Quint a brother of David Attenborough. But if he was David's evil twin, who mirrored his every move in an attempt to cancel out all the good that David ever did. Ow! Captain Quint was not the conservation hero he pretended to be, but was actually a bad omen for just about any species that found itself under his weaponized spotlight. As you can tell, something has died here. It's a damn shame, because now we won't be able to get it on camera. But the tables seemed to have turned, for now it was the captain who was in danger. This note had been posted on his door just before he left for St. Vrain. He had demons on his heels.
guys were bad news. In fact, among those who knew their work, they had a 12-year unbroken streak of being rated as the worst possible news. Which was a title they intended to keep.
Open up, you little f***. We're not going to hurt you. Open up. We just want to say hi.
Getting tangled up with these thugs was a recipe for disaster. And speaking of disaster...
The expedition was planned for the late summer, by which point enough of the deep snowpack would have melted, and the winter would not have yet taken hold of the high peaks, like these ones. However, our dear captain dropped off our radar and didn't respond to any communications until 2 days before today. It is October 31st.
Strongest winds we've ever felt. On November 1st, the next day, the summit path would be closed and all travel uphill would be extremely dangerous, if not impossible, due to a violent blizzard hurtling toward the research site. Any failure to reach the research site would also, of course, keep the captain from finishing the job and getting paid, which for him would be a problem. He had debts to pay. That's right. Captain Quint was getting pinched from both sides, stuck between a rock and a hard place. Asking to be dead from the bottom up and the top down. Just going for a little hike with no existential threats on either side. These henchmen were the strong arm of a group known as the Fuel Oil, Offshore Drilling, and Natural Gas Associates, aka Funga. In the 70s, they sought filmmakers to tell the world about the ecological and cultural benefits of drilling for oil in the Arctic.
What should we say to him?
Funga found an easily corruptible filmmaker in Captain Quint.
Just got new funding.
And paid him to make a film that would trick audiences into thinking that oil rigs in the North Sea were giving puffins immunity to avian flu, avian pox, and avian malaria. Of course, none of this was true. But for the captain, it didn't really matter. It was a quick buck. This was very delicate, dangerous, and devious work, which meant it involved very delicate and dangerous and devious rules. These are the steps, they said, for how to tell a large and very important lie, aka the Climate Disinformation Playbook. 1. Make it big. It's 3 diseases at once. 2. Hide all motives. It's for community, service. 3. Repeat the lie. 4. Appeal to the fears of the people. 5. Cite no information.
It's a very good place for a lobster here anyway.
6. Avoid going into detail.
For what? For butter, a pound of butter, or a dozen eggs for a fish.
7. Pay off experts.
But now we send them away. When I sent them away first, it would affect my maintenance.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
8. Repeat the lie. Puffins love oil rigs.
Everybody knows that puffins.
Take my word. Flu, pox, and malaria. We're saving them. It's a fact. And lastly, beneath all those rules was a provision that said this. If any problems arise that might expose you and the dishonesty of this work, call immediately. +41 333 333 333.
I'm in a pinch. Pull me out.
Right away.
Airlift will come from Swiss Rescue Service, which runs like clockwork day and night, maintains strict neutrality, and will ask no questions. They're the best in the rescue business. We've relied on them for the last 97 years. Hop Schwitz. That meant go Switzerland. And just like that, Captain Quint took a one-way ticket into a web of lies and crime and lutefisk. That's a food eaten in Scandinavia. It's dried cod treated with lye, which makes the fish gelatinous. No big deal, he thought. Just another day in the office.
Just another day in the office.
Now, Captain Quint celebrated with a quick trip not to the North Sea, but to the Mediterranean, where he blacked out and spent the whole budget on boats and booze. And he forgot damn near the whole thing. Funga, however, forgot nothing. Captain Quint had taken their money and pissed it away. And there was really only this to show for it.
One day while I was sitting down,
Little did he know, Captain Quint gave Funga reason to kick their media strategy into high gear. Clearly, puffins alone were not going to cut it. They were going to find out what would. Uh-oh. All right. There was, however, still one thing that scared the absolute bejesus out of them and they had to watch out for. As it happens, there's a natural defense written into the world in the form of a sort of a secret code. A sort of a secret code that, if decoded very carefully, could put holes in their plan.
Thousands of years. They break down bare rock into the ingredients for life. They colonize the world's harshest places and build the base for layers of webs of living things. Who's gonna live on Mars anytime soon? They'd be pretty good. The lichen is a complex life form.
An inseparable partnership between algae and fungi. They turn rocks like these ones, into livable soil, which can then be used by grasses and mosses in order to grow. And they can also be food where there otherwise is none.
It's like Captain Crunch. Pretty good.
However, lichens are also extremely sensitive creatures. A single degree change in annual temperature can shift entirely which species are able to grow in a particular place. Now, it is by taking careful note as to the presence of these lichens,
along with other information like temperature and air quality and water quality and so on, that one can get a picture of the health of any given place.
Lichens are an indicator species, a very quiet voice, speaking of very loud truths.
But for mischief of this scale, lichens alone are not enough.
The captain, of course, is on a mission to collect very similar information. Once he reaches the research site, he will record the weather conditions, the suitability of potential pika habitat, the vegetation present, signs of pika in the vicinity, and, if he has the good fortune to find any, he will collect a poop sample. All this information is used to understand how pika in this and many other similar locations up in these mountains are getting on from year to year.
This is where pika live in the United States. Well, it used to be.
Because, in a terrible twist of fate, as alpine zones warm up, pika are freezing to death.
Which means getting to them is a matter of urgency. This is talus, a formal code word of sorts for a special kind of rocks. And this is snow, a formal code word of sorts for a special kind of illegal and addictive narcotic that might be found at a party. And for water, that is crystallized and fallen to earth in the form of a white powder. Pika need talus, and in the winter they need it to be covered by snow, which creates an insulated little world that they can live in when the weather turns cold. So as the snow melts earlier each year than it used to, more and more pika are struggling to make it through the winter without freezing to death. This is generally bad for them. But on the bright side, pika have found a natural balance for this problem. By dying in the summer, too.
In order to have enough food for the long winter, pika spend the summer in an intense search for vegetation that they will add to their hay piles, which are big stacks of grasses and herbs and such that they will eat all winter long.
However, summers, like the winters, are also getting hotter. The pika can go from being the size and shape of a potato to being cooked like one very quickly, which is also generally pretty bad for them.
What a cruel world this is. So to compensate, pika have been retreating to higher and cooler elevations. Since the 1990s, pika's average minimum elevation in the Great Basin of North America has shifted uphill from 5,700 to 8,300 feet. But this shift cannot continue forever. With nowhere upward to go, pika are facing fewer resources and smaller habitats, while the moats between populations continue to shrink. Some of them are disappearing entirely. Home to a quarter of all the alpine habitat in the lower 48, Colorado is one of the last strongholds of the pika. Much of this habitat is protected and in relatively good condition, safe from immediate threats like localized pollution, development, the building of new Applebee's, However, the real threat to these places is much harder to pinpoint and control. Temperatures in Colorado's high alpine regions are expected to go up by another 2.5 to 6.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the next 20 years. Bum, bum, bum. That's not good.
The St. Vrain Summit Path is located on the near-perfect east side of St. Vrain Mountain. This, to the relief of many travelers, means that the mountain is an excellent shield from strong winds out of the west. At 1300 hours on October 31st, wind speeds at the top of St. Vrain Mountain reached 104 miles per hour. At this exact time, 7,659.99 miles away, the peak of Mount Everest, which sticks up into the constant force of the planet's jet streams, was experiencing winds of the exact same speed. There were no summiting parties in proximity to Everest's peak on October 31st. Had there been, they would have been delighted. Winds of this speed made for a nice day. Captain Quint, however, was not delighted by what he would encounter at the summit of St. Vrain.
Oh my Jesus.
The pika research site was another 1.8 miles from the summit, located directly west, directly into the wind. It was immediately evident that reaching the pika site, conducting the survey,
Go hide in there. Holy.
and returning to base camp
I cannot feel my fingers
without hypothermia or frostbite
or my toes.
was highly unlikely.
I don't know if we're gonna get there.
The captain wished for a long moment that he could transform into some crumholds. Which would save him from a good deal of annoying little things in his life that had compounded and he did not feel like dealing with. It would also save him from a near certain death.
Wait, can we talk this out? No. Get him!
It appeared there was only one option from here.
Captain's log, 1600 hours. The expedition party has made it to the summit of St. Vrain. Further travel will be impossible due to intense winds on the leading edge of an incoming winter storm. I've descended back to tree line to regroup and assess potential options.
There were no potential options.
I'm gonna have to fake my death.
The captain would not fake his death. He knew he wouldn't be able to pull it off. These mob guys, they were too good. They had a nose for these sorts of things, you see. They were well versed in the dark arts.
dark arts conducted in a world very much like our own. Actually, they might as well have been conducted on our own Earth, because they were. See, in this parallel timeline, on this parallel Earth, with its very own parallel Kyoto, Japan, and parallel St. Vrain Mountain, and parallel Pica, and parallel David Attenborough, and parallel Public Broadcasting Service, that's PBS for short, and parallel rap music industry, complete with the very same beefs and song lyrics about criminal activity, and parallel Scandinavian gelatinous fish recipes, and so on, there is only one main difference. In fact, a Venn diagram of these two worlds would look like this, with perfect overlap down to every last molecule, with one main difference. The one main difference being that Funga is the premier worldwide conglomerate of oil and gas interests, rather than the cast of heroes we're familiar with. So, by investigating the tactics of one of them, we can understand the spirit of the other, as if they were mirror images, or they were bound by a wormhole. So to grasp the extent to which Captain Quint was in deep shit, and the extent to which he was responsible for getting the rest of the world into some deep shit, we can get some backstory from some familiar faces. These are the real-life stars, and this is the scandal that built the world we live in, and set it on fire. It was the late 1970s. The biggest names in oil outside of the Middle East had struck liquid gold in Alaska and in the North Sea. What no one had a clue of yet is the sheer size of this fortune. All they knew was that they were playing for world-bending, power-snatching, future-steering kind of money. Money that was far from guaranteed. There were the engineering challenges to deal with, of course. The dismal weather and the freezing ocean. The lives that would no doubt be lost in the hunt. But still, a bigger problem was hiding not in the murk of the North Sea, but in the minds of people around the world. What happens? When we use it all? There were trillions of dollars at stake. But without the proper narrative, it would all stay locked beneath the frigid Arctic water. One-off attempts evidently weren't going to cut it.
She's got new funding.
The industry needed a systematic approach. They identified susceptible target markets. Zeroed in on the opinions that were cheapest to influence. Designed test campaigns, and then let the story unfold. These are real advertisements, most of which have aged like Great Aunt Edith, she's made up, who smoked 2 packs a day for 60 years.
Holy shit, that's a lot.
Yeah, I know. The point is that she did what she had to do to maintain her fucked up status quo and keep the demons at bay. And so too did the non-fictionalized Brethren of Funga, in an effort to keep their own demons at bay and get ahead of something dark that no one else saw coming. As their fortunes started to materialize in rows of barrels of sludge, companies like Exxon ran the numbers on what using all of this oil would do to the planet. And once they saw the forecasts, they ceased all drilling operations and started the world's first offshore wind farms. That's not what happened. No, they ran the numbers, and they realized they'd have to double down on the narrative. They wanted to squeeze the max amount of juice from all those oil reserves and tickle the shareholders' soft little as much as possible. So they doubled down, and they tickled away.
Regardless of what coal you're now purchasing your planet, order a ton of blue coal. Try blue coal for Shelley tailor-made gasoline. You see, Shelley tailor-made gasoline is never rusted because it's single.
As the prospect of being killed from below by an angry mob of henchmen faded from his mind, and the prospect of being killed from above by an angry blizzard faded from his mind, Captain Quint should have realized with full catastrophic alarm bells that his new lack of concern about these two kinds of deaths was due to the fact that he was slipping into a third kind of death. Death by hypothermia, in whose final stages victims irrationally remove their clothes in a fit of paradoxical undressing because their extra coats and gloves and heavy packs full of unused survey equipment are now making them a little too warm. It makes little sense, but it happens. And it happened to Captain Quint, who, as he slipped into the numbing blanket of the final stages of hypothermia, also forgot about the job he was leaving undone. And also forgot about being a miserable loser who had never done anything for anyone but himself his entire life. And also forgot that he was going to the grave with just enough inside knowledge about funga to perhaps expose them for who they were. But none of that mattered anymore.
Hot in here.
Since time began, man has been scratching and digging at the earth in a never-ending search for energy. Even if we have to go deeper on the next well, and even deeper on the next, it'll be worth it. We have to keep going deeper to find enough of it.
Even if we have to go deeper on the next well. Go deeper on the next well. Go deeper on the next well. Go deeper on the next well.
Well before Captain Quint was out in the cold dying on St. Vrain Mountain, the media campaign he accidentally set in motion was moving along nicely.
Because we need gas.
Not only did these guys tickle the balls, they were pleased to see they'd really gotten the balls rolling, too. For example, this schedule outlined pacing of radio broadcasts. Ads rolled on radio, on newspaper, on TV. Per statutes 136 and 8 of the Climate Disinformation Playbook, the message was big, it was repeated, it was just vague enough to be hard to disprove, and of course, it was repeated. No matter the medium, the message was clear. Get real, stop panicking, grab hold of yourselves and get the whole goddamn story before you make up your mind. Because Minneapolis has actually gotten colder. For 3 decades, this message was reinforced. The Earth is not changing due to human activity. Earth is not changing due to human activity. Earth is not changing. Earth is not changing due to human activity. That was the message they reinforced. Earth is not changing due to human activity. And they were absolutely right about it, actually. Well, except for the small part of that fact that they made up, which was pretty much all of it. And the idea stuck until someone called them on their bluff. The Kyoto Protocol was the first of its kind, a shot at a worldwide compromise. A statement from world leaders who wanted to slow their contributions to a warming, changing planet. It was recognition that the world really was changing, and that we, human beings, might have something to do with it. At the time, the U.S. was the world's largest emitter of CO2.
Sorry about the rain. I'll make this brief.
If they participated in Kyoto, it would be a signal to the rest of the world that this was a problem worth taking seriously. If it went through, it would be a
commitment by our generation to act in the interest of future generations.
And we view Kyoto as a process.
No, it was anything but straightforward.
To deal with a long-term problem.
We would have liked
this was a big, complicated, high-stakes kind of global negotiation.
To move the Japanese figures upwards.
With geopolitical, economical, transnational intertanglement kind of consequences.
Greenhouse gas emissions could increase.
All that to say,
and taking into account the loopholes means that
there's a lot of back and forth. And then finally,
we'll recommend the adoption of this protocol by unanimity.
Wonderful. The agreement is environmentally strong and economically sound.
It's a good convention, and we did it.
I've been able to understand a lot of things. Even things out of this world. But you know one thing that puzzles me.
But after the treaty was signed and before it was ratified, the United States saw a change in leadership. Now, by no means was the Kyoto Agreement perfect. And this new leadership was much more receptive to that fact.
Well, shucks. You'd do that for me?
Especially when it was delivered in a duffel bag and had Benjamin Franklin's face printed all over it.
I will not commit our nation to an unsound international treaty that will throw millions of our citizens out of work.
Which meant that sweet, sweet oil money would keep on coming. Later, the truth came to the surface. In a declassified briefing from the office of George W. Bush to the world's premier oil and gas conglomerate, he said that he backed out of Kyoto because of, quote, input from you. Depending on who you asked, this was blatant racketeering. Textbook corrupt organization kind of behavior. But by this point, it didn't really matter. They had already banked trillions, and now they're just playing with house money. Or so they thought. By the time Funga reached his location, Captain Quint was nowhere to be found. They searched high and low, but all they came across was a pair of frozen gloves, a bundle of unused survey equipment, and a business card, rendered illegible by the snow. The storm had taken care of the problem for them. Very nice, they thought. That will do perfectly.
Yes, very nice. That will do perfectly.
In the decades after Kyoto, narratives around climate uncertainty worked their way deeper into the minds of people everywhere. Meet Chuck Hagel, former U.S. Senator and Secretary of Defense. As a senator, he helped keep the U.S. from ratifying the Kyoto Protocol.
Do you stand by that, Senator Hagel?
His hands were stained with something that smelled a lot like money. Money soaked with oil money.
Question is, were you right or wrong?
Well, I would defer to the judgment of history to...
But history wouldn't need to judge nothing. See, Chuck had a chance to speak for himself. 20 years later, he was back in the hot seat.
Thank you for inviting me to testify today.
About to deliver words that would again carry consequences.
I'm confident that the weight of scientific evidence and present-day realities confirm what I and other national security leaders have found. Climate change is a real and present threat.
All right, great. Thanks, Chuck. Over the course of the last 20 years, enough hard evidence had come to the surface to change the former senator's mind.
There needs to be a dedicated effort to address this threat.
Chuck told PBS that if oil companies had been truthful about what they knew, it would have changed everything. But they weren't truthful about what they knew. This forecast, produced in the real world by Exxon, was fantastically accurate. It really knocked it out of the park. It was very well made. Exxon predicted how the planet would respond to the world using what they had to sell, and put together the perfect action plan to defend their business interests, which they called the Action Plan. And that action plan, well, it worked. It worked so well that the industry cemented itself as the world's power source, the backbone for infrastructure and entire economies. And for a while, there were plenty of winners. The question was how long it would last, and for who, or whom. For those on the wrong side of things, there would be neck up, neck down kind of consequences. However, even the apparent winners wouldn't be able to outrun the truth. In the real world, it's uncertain if any one single document was responsible for sparking the investigation. But in a parallel world, it is exactly positively certain that a single document was leaked, which sparked the investigation that would put a cold hard nail into the coffin of this parallel world's oil and gas interests. The single document was this. This was the document that had been leaked, whose source is still a mystery, considering that anyone with knowledge of it was either part of the bust and went to prison, or jumped into the North Sea before the police could find them, or had died months before it was leaked. In theory, at least. And the leak? Well, it worked. Fungo was litigated into oblivion. Their empire was broken up, their assets were sold off, and all of their oil rigs were converted into puffin habitat. In the real world, oil and gas interests have a bit more sway and a bit more power and a bit more ability to satisfy the shareholders. So the outcome hasn't been so clear. Not yet, at least. Because on the other hand, there has been a reaction, and it's growing.
California is suing 5 major oil companies.
The city filed a lawsuit today against 26.
Here's why the governor announced a lawsuit.
From 2017 to 2023, 7 states, 35 municipalities, the District of Columbia, and 1 industry trade association
Maybe about making some money, but we could live.
Have filed suit
against some of the world's largest oil producers.
These companies
knowingly contributed,
have known for decades.
In recent years, groups far and wide have sued the oil and gas industry for actively hiding their knowledge about the dangers of using their products.
California claims the oil companies knew that burning fossil fuels would warm the planet, but downplayed the risk.
The number of lawsuits against these companies has more than doubled in the last 10 years. Lawyers that went up against Big Tobacco with the RICO Act, where the R stands for racketeering and the CO stands for corrupt organizations and the I is in the middle to glue it all together. Well, those lawyers said that the playbook used by oil and gas is one they recognize all too well. The cover-up, the denial of the problem, the funding of scientists to question the science, we recognize it all too well. That's what they said. Oil and gas even have some of the same defense lawyers. They said that, too. See, Fungo was big time, but not big time enough. They couldn't stay afloat in the midst of their own catastrophic tsunami of lawsuits. They didn't have that kind of sway, unlike their real-life counterparts. Their ability to protect business as usual, to caress the soft little of their shareholders, and to exert mind control on the unfeeling, unthinking, unconscious orange slugs making giant decisions on behalf of feeling and thinking and loving human beings.
We will drill, baby, drill.
Is as strong as ever. Their ability to misdirect and redirect and anti-direct and so on to steer the narrative in favor of sweet, sweet profit margins above literally all else, including the well-being of every single living thing on planet Earth, is as strong as ever. Nothing wrong with that, though. Won't nothing stop me from getting this cheddar. Money, money, make me feel so better. That is a quote from a rapper who is part of the rap industries. A rapper whose name is Max B, and who went to prison for murdering someone. However, in all cases, and on all planets, and in all timelines, there are sources of hope. Sources of hope and truth. About a month after Captain Quint's fateful mission to the top of St. Vrain, this was postmarked to the scientists at Schlong.
What is it? It's a box.
Its contents were labeled with 2 words. Operation Pica. Which, to the delight of its recipients, would not only make amends for the failed expedition, but would open the mission up to the rest of the world for much-needed assistance.
This is delightful. So I don't need to hit all these spots on my own.
And crowdsource the work.
I'm starting not to care that he died. Did you care before?
Well, through Operation Pica, any average citizen like you or me or David Attenborough or Max B following his long-awaited release from prison can hike into designated places in the mountains, take note of pica and signs of their activity, and then bring the findings back to scientists, who will use that information to protect the animal and the places in which it lives, with a focus first on the pica here. In the real world, the name is slightly different, but the aim is the same.
Where did this come from? I don't know. The return address is blacked out.
It could be that these plans were postmarked by someone who perhaps felt they had a job left undone. Perhaps the same someone who froze to death a miserable loser that had never done anything for anyone but himself his entire life.
I think it was Quint. How could it be Quint? He's dead. I'm certain he's cooked. Right?
Who knows? Perhaps someone had a change of heart in their final hours. Happens to the worst of us.
But how could it be?
But how could it be? Well, it's a worthwhile question. Common sense would suggest that Captain Quint met his disappointed maker out there in that storm. But then again, common sense might not grasp the full extent of Swiss rescue capabilities.
Hey, look, there's something else in the box. Hope this makes amends. Q.
After all, they're not called the best in the business for nothing.